let 50-year-old orcs hang out with 14-year-olds in school. But let's get into the lore of my world from the mating manual, where my mangas, the Night of Slaughter, and Devil's Deal take place in. So within the mating manual, the breeding teams look at two primary locations in regards to the orc entry. They look at the entry where orcs originated in the Yarshava Plains and in the Great Collection. And the reason they look at these two primary locations is because the plains are the origination point for orcs. So this is where their original traditional cultures are located at, versus the Great Collection, which is a mixed species society. So it gives a very big difference for what a human or somebody that's looking to mate with an orc could experience if they go to the plains where the traditional orcs are versus a mixed race society. But what does this have to do with school? Well, when we focus on mixed species society, orcs on average will live about 600 years, which means that their aging progression is vastly different than a human. Like, for example, in mixed race societies, as soon as an orc is born up to the age of 25, they are considered millers. They are called millers because specifically for first-time orc parents, there is a woman in there called the mill mother. And the mill mother is not only a trainer for new parents, but an educator for new orc children and also a part-time caretaker. So the fact that the mill mother is so involved in their lives, the children are culturally called millers. But originally, the way it worked is once a child reached about 5 years old, they would go to school until about 11. They would be participating with, elementary, middle school level children. And that's because there was some orcish traditions that would normally deal with getting education at the raccoons for just maybe a year to a couple years. But the way public education worked in the Great Collection is you had basically an upper range threshold, aka meaning you could go to high school up until you're an adult. For humans, you could be in the system until you're 18. Some of you might be seeing where this is kind of becoming a problem. But for creatures like orcs who don't become an adult until 60, you can get taken out of school at, let's say, 11 once you're done with your basics, and then you don't have to go back to high school until, let's say, 50, 55, or whenever your parents wanted to send you, just so long as you're done with high school before that 60-year mark. And that's because once you hit 26 in mixed race societies, you're considered a dually. And dually is basically a dumb child, is what they refer to it as a culture, and it's considered your adolescent phase. And this is how it worked for many, many years until the famous experience versus development in schools policy put forth by the Civil Rest Representative Sinker, who was a dwarf at the time. It's important. The reason this dwarf put this policy in place is because there was a situation in one of the clans where a 16-year-old male dwarf ended up impregnating a 58-year-old orc woman. Some of you may be saying, well, they're not adults, so what's the issue? Well, here's what the dwarf argued. The parents outraged.